Hello and welcome to Rediscovering the Beatles with Mark Morse. I'm Mark. Today I'm going to tell you a horrifying tale of a young man discovering a record with album art that just terrified him, that young man being me. And then the second part of this video, I'm going to talk about a Beatle album I bought just recently that has turned out to be one of my favorite listens at the current moment. But let's start off with this horrifying album art. I always like to mention that I had two very influential people in my life that really helped me develop my musical taste. One was my brother Terry, and one was my sister's first husband named Ron. And Ron and my sister Ann, they lived near where I grew up at, and I would go over there a lot just to listen to records, and we would make little home movies and stuff. So in 1972, I just turned 10 years old, and my brother-in-law had bought a new album, and I would look at this album and I would turn away. It was like, like a car wreck where you want to stare and you want to see just for a second the horror of it, but then you look away. That's kind of how I approached this album. I was fascinated but terrified of it. And he knew that I was creeped out by this album cover, and he had a lot of fun with that. But the album I'm talking about is the Edgar Winter Group. They Only Come Out at Night. And I don't know what it is about that album, that maybe it was the albino look, the shirtless man on the cover with the diamonds, his little nipples, that makeup, everything about this just creeped me the hell out. And I didn't even want to listen to the record. He did play it for me and stuff, but I was even reluctant to listen to the record because it freaked me out so much. I was 10 years old, just not ready for the looks of Edgar Winter. A similar thing happened later on I encountered Iggy and the Stooges, Raw Power, at my friend Tony Rash's house. His older brothers owned a copy of it, and I just remember looking at it, and I'm like, this guy looks dangerous. I was right, of course. But what my brother-in-law would do, and my sister too, my sister was in on this kind of stuff. They had a basement at their house, and it was a nice basement. It had like a bar down there. They had a pool table down there. So it was a finished basement. It wasn't a real creepy basement. But one of the stories they told me, and I assume it was true, but now I'm wondering if it even was true. Before they bought the house, there was a tragedy there that an infant had died. I think they said it was SIDS in a crib in that basement. And so I was a little freaked out about that. And but what my brother-in-law would do, or my sister, I'd be over there listening to records with them or watching TV, and somebody would say, "Hey, Mark, could you run down to the basement and get me whatever? Like, I have some scissors down there. Can you run down there and get them for me?" And so I would go down there innocently, thinking I was just going to pick up some scissors and run back up. And they would have placed this on the bar where it was very easily seen. They'd wait for me just long enough to see it, and then they'd flip off the lights. And of course, I would scream and scramble back up the stairs in the dark, and luckily I didn't break my neck. Anyway, this album cover horrified me. And what brought this story back for me today was I was with my friend Lily, and I had heard there was a butcher a Beatles Butcher album cover at an antique store around here, and I wanted to go look at it. And so we went to this antique store, and sure enough, that they did have a First State Yesterday and Today Butcher album cover there for $1,200. I just didn't have $1,200 on me today, or else I'd be showing you that instead. But while we were there, I saw that they had a collection of records. And I live in Iowa. There's really not a decent record store around here for about 80 miles. So I was so excited to find a place fairly nearby that had records, and they obviously were a good choice of records. I'm flipping through the records, and sure enough, this thing popped up, and Lily is my niece. She's 21 years old. I had to tell her the story of this, but I also bought this album. It was only $10, and it really plays well. I was very excited. But it is an awesome record. I do want to mention that. A super great record. I don't know what you're seeing there because my face is covered, but it has like the great songs on there. Free Ride was their big one. Frankenstein's on here. Just a great album. Nice Gatefold. Just a great rock and roll album. Just a beautiful rock and roll album. And there's a nice little, there's a beautiful little song called Autumn on here that Dan Hartman wrote. Love it too. So this is a great album. And so don't be frightened by the cover. Feel free to go out and buy this and listen to it with the conviction that it's a great cover. This album cover doesn't scare me at all anymore, just because, I've been exposed to so much more. But that's my story of the Edgar Winter Group album cover that scared me. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was another purchase I made recently. My story is I got rid of all my records in the 1990s except for a handful of them, and just recently I've been trying to restore that collection. But I mostly am focused on the Beatles and Beatle-related stuff. I'm obviously starting to stray from my path, so I'll probably end up collecting every record that I ever owned or wanted to own. But one of the records that I wasn't really too keen on finding by the Beatles was anything to do with Yellow Submarine. I do have a copy of the original soundtrack, and it's just not one I listen to very often. That side 2 with the George Martin scores, I just never play it. So I'd seen just every now and again this album, the Beatles' Yellow Submarine Songtrack, and I never really paid attention to it. I'm like, I don't need any more Yellow Submarine stuff. Well, then I came across the video on Anthony at Parlogram on his channel about the mix by Peter Cobbin, I believe his name is, regarding this album and how fantastic it is. It piqued my curiosity enough that I did buy the album. I'll link to Parlogram's video down below. But I got the album. I didn't play it for a couple days because, again, I wasn't super excited about it. I was a little curious about it. Well, I played it the other night. Love it. It is one of my favorite. I love the sound of this. Peter Cobbin, he did an excellent job at mixing this. Just beautiful. And what they've done is, this came out in 1999, so most of you probably already know about this, and I'm not going to go on about all the details. Just go to the link below to see Parlogram's video. It does such a better job than I'll do. But what they did, they took off the George Martin orchestration and just used the songs that were in the movie. So 1999, I believe Yellow Submarine was re-released on DVD. And so that's why this came about too. Oh, look at this gatefold. Anyway, beautiful, beautiful mixing, just clear and crisp. This is like the time period where I really got into the Beatles, right around Sgt. Pepper, Yellow Submarine, White Album. This stuff was the stuff that I really loved, and it is just done so well. I'm just going to read down the tracks real quick. Yellow Submarine, of course. Hey Bulldog, beautiful. Eleanor Rigby, Love You Too, which I've never really liked that much, but I'm learning to appreciate it. I've listened to this album several times now. I'm learning to appreciate it more and more as I listen to this. All Together Now, I think I mentioned this in another video. I know people hate this song. They think it's sophomoric and childish and stuff. I love the sound of it. I love to sing along with it. I really like this song. I think the Beatles themselves thought of it as a throwaway song. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds sounds fantastic on here. Think for Yourself by Harrison, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, with a little help from my friends. They didn't put every song that's in the movie on here, and I think they only left off A Day in the Life because they thought the album was becoming a little Sgt. Pepper heavy, and I think that was probably a good idea. Then side 2, Baby You're a Rich Man, Only a Northern Song, All You Need Is Love, When I'm 64, Nowhere Man, and It's All Too Much. Just a beautiful collection of songs. Wonderfully mixed. I've been listening to this like crazy, as I've mentioned, and I didn't get the yellow vinyl. Not that I was opposed to yellow vinyl. I would have loved to have it, but it's just an awesome record. I would like to recommend that to any Beatle fans out there who were maybe reluctant like me to ever pick this up. It is worth the buy. I don't think it's too expensive. I can't remember how much I paid for this, to be honest. I've been buying so many records lately, I'm forgetting which ones are a little pricey and which ones aren't bad at all. The other thing I just wanted to mention before February was out was I got my first copy of Record Collector. It's just a little magazine on the Rachel's Ghost morning show, her live stream. She talked about this a lot, so I finally thought I would check it out. And lucky for me, the first issue that came, here they are, the Beatles. Has like a nice Beatles thing in here with the 60th anniversary of the Beatles being on Ed Sullivan. Great stuff. And then I was excited to find some of the vinyl community people that I see on YouTube, author some of these articles. For example, Rob from The Wax does an article on here called The Boomer Scalpel. There's a guy named Stunty on here. It's just interesting to see some of the vinyl community represented in here. And then I wanted to end this video with, let me make sure I've remembered everything. I feel like I'm always forgetting something. You might have seen on Matthew Street's channel that he had come across these little books by the Beatles. I have these, and I have one by John Lennon. There's also one, I think, on Dolly Parton, the Little Guide to John Lennon, the Little Guide to Dolly Parton. I know there's one on the Rolling Stones too, and there's somebody else I can't remember right now. But they're fun little books. But I thought I would end this episode with John Lennon quote. What they do is they take quotes by the Beatles, or in this case John Lennon, put the quote in and then put a little context underneath it. So this is the quote that I just picked today. John Lennon says, "They were playing All You Need Is Love earlier on the radio, and I was saying to Yoko, I still believe all you need is love, you know, but I don't believe that just saying it is going to do it, you know." And it says that that was Lennon reflecting on Beatles songs in interviews conducted by Howard Smith. And I just wanted to elaborate on that. I remember when I was in the throes of depression, and I would hear the song "All You Need Is Love," I'm like, I don't feel like I have any love, coming my way. That's why I'm depressed. But really, you really need to think it's not that you're getting the love so much as you have the love in you and you're giving the love. So just like in the end, the song "The End," and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. So it's more than just all you need is love to survive. You have to have the love in you to give to. So I'm just going to recommend that everybody, if you're down or out and you're just going through a rough time, try to find something you're passionate about. Surround yourself with it. And this is how I have brought myself out of a 2-year depression, was by surrounding myself with the Beatles, things that I enjoy. And once you find that one passion, you'll see that it blossoms, that your love will blossom. That's my recommendation to you. I hope you're in a good place, and I hope you're doing well. I'm so glad you're here, and I thank you for being here, and I'll see you again soon.